It's likely you've been approaching gardening incorrectly, leading to wasted time, expense, and considerable aggravation, ranging from overlook techniques that can double your yield to soil improvements that help plants flourish with less work. These revolutionary pointers will reshape your vegetable patch. Prepare to question how you managed your garden before learning these. Nonetheless, disadvantages exist. Milk deteriorates rapidly in warm conditions and tends to draw insects. If fungal spores are the primary concern, a conventional chemical fungicide might prove more effective. This was predominantly a rural practice employed by individuals who lacked easy access to commercial fungicides or possessed their own dairy animals. Eggshell seed starters. Utilizing eggshells as seed starters provides practically ideal biodegradable containers for initiating seeds. They contribute to increasing the calcium levels in plants, thereby helping to avert frequent problems such as blossom end rot in tomatoes and peppers. This condition stems from a lack of calcium, and eggshell starters offer a way to mitigate it. These starter containers are entirely biodegradable. Placed directly into the soil, they function as a preventative measure and decompose, providing additional benefits to the plant. Their simplicity led many gardeners to embrace this technique. Exercise caution when cracking the eggs, aiming for the top, and ensure the shells are rinsed and dried thoroughly. Load the shells with a seed starting medium, sow the seeds, and gently crush the shell after the seedlings emerge. Using newspapers as a weed barrier. Employing newspapers as a natural blockade to hinder weed proliferation is a well-established gardening method. It represents one of the most economical and biodegradable choices accessible. Many substitutes consist of plastic or fabric barriers, which can potentially impede plant development. Newspaper obstructs sunlight and helps maintain soil moisture, eventually decomposing, rendering it an economical and environmentally sound solution. To implement this approach, lay approximately 5 sheets of newspaper across weed-prone zones, ensuring the edges overlap. Moisten the paper thoroughly, and then conceal it with a layer of straw or compost. Reapply periodically as required, and you should achieve effective weed control. Urine as a natural fertilizer. Utilizing urine as a natural fertilizer likely stands as the most ancient practice mentioned here, supported by scientific evidence. It is sterile, abundant in nutrients, and costs nothing, boasting significant concentrations of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nevertheless, direct application to plants like tomatoes is ill-advised. Dilution is crucial, specifically 1 part urine to 10 parts water, to prevent scorching the plants, and the urine should be used while fresh. This approach is most suitable for leafy green vegetables and ought to be applied straight to the soil. Despite its benefits, numerous gardeners encounter social disapproval regarding this method, stemming from the understandable aversion to consuming produce perceived as contaminated, like pissy cabbage. Burying fish scraps. Wood ash for soil boost. Wood ash serves as a natural, organic provider of potassium and lime, enhancing the fertility of soil. Its use in gardens spans centuries, notably in regions characterized by high soil acidity. Abundant in calcium and potassium, wood ash also functions as a natural deterrent against slugs and snails owing to its arid consistency. Distribute it sparingly around plants and incorporate it into compost. Be mindful, however, that elevating the soil pH excessively can create problems for plants preferring acidic conditions, such as blueberries. Confirm that the wood ash originates from untreated wood, as ash from treated lumber or charcoal briquettes is unsuitable. Three Sisters planting. The Three Sisters cultivation strategy is a method employed by indigenous populations for hundreds of years. This approach entails planting beans, squash, and corn in proximity, establishing an organically balanced ecosystem that promotes the growth of all three. The corn provides a natural support structure for the climbing beans, which in turn enrich the soil with nitrogen. Meanwhile, the squash covers the ground, shading the soil, inhibiting weeds, and conserving moisture. This technique, however, is best suited for more spacious garden plots, and it's crucial that the corn stalks grow sufficiently robust to bear the weight of the bean vines. Should the corn stalks buckle, they cannot effectively aid the beans in their vertical growth. Molasses as a soil amendment. Molasses was formerly considered a natural soil additive capable of nourishing beneficial microorganisms and enhancing overall plant vitality. It supplies carbohydrates, trace elements, and organic substances, thereby increasing microbial activity. A mere tablespoon or two of unsulfured molasses is often sufficient to achieve the desired effect. Nevertheless, excessive application might foster undesirable microbes and draw pests, particularly if spilled onto plant leaves. Baking soda for soil acidity. Entering fish remnants is a technique with roots stretching back multiple centuries. Primarily employed by North America's indigenous populations, settlers eventually embraced it too. The concept relies on the decomposition process, during which a fish carcass releases nutrients crucial for plants. These include calcium, phosphorus, and nitrogen, elements essential for vigorous leaf development, improved root systems, consistent flowering, and enhanced plant robustness. Baking soda was occasionally employed to decrease soil acidity, driven by the notion that it could enhance the sweetness of tomatoes. Although it can alter pH levels, the sugar concentration in tomatoes is chiefly influenced by watering practices and the specific cultivar grown. Most gardeners came to understand this was merely a minor corrective measure, not a replacement for proper fertilization. Cinnamon for fungus control. Cinnamon serves as a natural fungicide in gardening contexts, primarily for protecting seedlings and combating soil-borne fungal issues. Its effectiveness stems from cinnamaldehyde, a compound possessing antifungal and antibacterial qualities. However, it offers little benefit once a fungal infection has already taken hold. Digging a trench for watering. Creating a trench for watering purposes is an age-old irrigation technique that facilitates the effective direction of water to plant root zones. This approach fosters deep root development while minimizing surface runoff and soil erosion. It is particularly advantageous for crops with extensive root systems, such as tomatoes and corn. Rotten bananas for roses. Decomposing bananas represent a cherished gardening trick, valued for their high potassium and phosphorus content, which encourages robust blossoms and vigorous roots, especially in roses. To circumvent attracting pests, farmers frequently prepared banana tea by steeping the peels in water. Epsom salt for magnesium. Magnesium sulfate, commonly known as Epsom salt, is an excellent resource for gardeners seeking to elevate magnesium levels, an element crucial for photosynthesis and the general well-being of plants. It aids in the formation of chlorophyll, vital for capturing energy from sunlight. Coffee grounds as soil amendments. What makes this effective? As the fish decomposes, it gradually emits nutrients, functioning like a natural slow-release fertilizer provided by nature itself. This decomposition also stimulates microbial life, enhancing the presence of helpful microbes in the soil. Practitioners would enter the fish 12 inches below the surface, often combining it with compost and utilizing whole fish rather than mere scraps to protect it from local animals. Deep burial was necessary. Failing to do so would allow the odor to travel significantly, drawing rodents and pests towards the crops. Used coffee grounds function as effective natural soil conditioners, particularly beneficial for plants that thrive in acidic environments. They enhance soil structure and fertility by contributing organic matter, nitrogen, and various minerals. Crushed oyster shells for calcium. Pulverized oyster shells offer a natural supply of calcium carbonate, which fortifies plant cell walls and aids in preventing rot conditions. These can be incorporated directly into the soil or applied as a top dressing around the base of plants. Hugelkulturmethode. Interring logs beneath a garden bed, a practice known as the Hugelkultur method, aids in retaining moisture and enhancing soil fertility over time. This technique, if it's possible to significantly improve my plants using just branches, leaves, and logs, I might need to start working on my deadlifts and begin the burying process. Burying soap in the garden. Entering soap bars in the garden is a practice some have employed for both managing pests and naturally deterring deer. The success of this method is highly dependent on the specific soap used, however. Soap, particularly when formulated as an insecticidal spray, can effectively dispatch soft-bodied insects such as aphids, spider mites, and whiteflies by compromising their cell membranes. Many insects possess a natural waxy layer for protection, an evolutionary trait which soap helps to break down. For application as a spray, combine 2 teaspoons of mild liquid dish soap. Ensure it's not antibacterial and lacks detergent properties with each quart of water. Treat the affected plant areas every 5 to 7 days until the infestation subsides. Be aware that potent soaps, including detergents and antibacterial varieties, can harm plants and lead to leaf scorch. This treatment requires regular reapplication as rain or watering easily washes it off. Human or pet hair as a repellent. Planting by the moon. For a considerable time, human or pet hair has been utilized in gardens as a deterrent against various animals. It is said to ward off a broad spectrum of creatures, encompassing rodents, rabbits, deer, and even some insects. The principle is that the hair emits an odor perceived as a danger signal by herbivores and potentially carnivores, suggesting recent human or predator activity. This straightforward technique leverages animal instincts, discouraging them from venturing near the protected area. Marigolds as pest deterrents. Marigolds are frequently planted alongside primary crops in vegetable patches to discourage various types of pests. Their efficacy differs based on the specific pest involved. They show particular prowess against soil-dwelling pests like nematodes, owing to their release of theophanies, compounds that assist in trapping root knot nematodes. Among the marigold varieties, French marigolds are noted for being especially potent pest repellents, though they should be established about a month prior to planting the main crops. The potent fragrance of marigolds serves to confuse and repel insects such as aphids and cabbage moths, positioning them as a useful component in any garden layout. When interspersed with vegetables, their aroma can help obscure the scent of the crops, while simultaneously drawing in beneficial insects like ladybugs and hoverflies. Aluminum foil for pest control. Aluminum foil represents another useful deterrent, particularly against aphids. Certain gardeners place strips of aluminum foil around the base of plants or incorporate it into mulch, based on the premise that reflected sunlight discourages various pests. The shiny surface can disorient insects such as whiteflies and aphids, serving as a helpful preventative tactic. Its utility may be limited, however, when dealing with significant infestations. Using worm castings. Applying worm castings, also referred to as vermicompost, is among the most beneficial organic soil enhancements for your crops. Abundant in nutrients, advantageous microbes, and organic material, it functions as a comprehensive solution for promoting plant vitality. Worm castings possess high levels of phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen, and harbor beneficial fungi that assist in converting organic matter into forms readily usable by plants. Growing potatoes in straw. Cultivating potatoes within straw is an economical technique that bypasses the need for extensive digging and significantly improves soil condition. Rather than planting potatoes underground, seed potatoes are positioned on the soil surface and enveloped in straw. This approach maintains a loose, well-aerated environment, permitting the potatoes to develop unhindered and lessening the likelihood of decay. Here's another piece of advice, a classic old belief, though I remain uncertain about its actual effectiveness. This technique involves planting according to the moon's phases. The conviction that lunar cycles influenced crop vitality was widespread. Numerous cultures revered lunar deities, viewing the moon as a nurturing force aiding cultivation. In certain traditions, the waxing period from new moon to full moon was considered advantageous for crops grown above ground, such as spinach and tomatoes, based on the idea that plants held water more effectively then. Salt for cabbage worms. For centuries, salt has been employed to manage cabbage worms, the larval stage of the cabbage white butterfly. Although salt effectively dehydrates these pests by drawing out moisture, it is only effective upon direct contact. Excessive use can negatively impact soil pH and harm the plants. Traditionally, farmers would manually remove the cabbage worms, apply a tiny amount of salt directly onto them, and subsequently rinse the plants to remove any residual salt. Soaking fish in milk. Immersing fish in milk can neutralize the unpleasant smell frequently associated with seafood. By soaking fish in milk for approximately 20 minutes, the milk's proteins bind with the fish compounds causing the odor, leading to a fish with a cleaner flavor profile. Churning butter in a milk jar. It's possible to convert a standard milk jar into a device for making butter simply by agitating heavy cream inside it. A glass jar equipped with a secure airtight lid is well suited for this task because it can withstand the energetic shaking required for butter production. This churning action forces the fat particles in the cream to combine and solidify, separating out the liquid buttermilk. Pork castle. Pork castle is a recipe centered around pork shoulders or sausages, typically integrated with common savory elements such as tomatoes, onions, and garlic. The preparation involves slow cooking, which permits the various flavors to blend deeply, yielding a rich and savory result. This dish gained popularity during times when pork was less expensive and could be easily transformed into a hearty stew or casserole, aligning well with the preferences of numerous families nationwide. Conclusion. These gardening and culinary pointers demonstrate the ingenuity and adaptability of home cooks and gardeners over the years, employing everything from natural pest deterrents to creative cooking approaches. These practices can improve both your garden yields and your kitchen creations. Everyone's satisfied. Mentioning casseroles, here's one with a tricky name, but believe me, the result justifies the pronunciation effort. Neolife Nest Dehydrated Stroganoff. Casserole was a prepared mix requiring only the addition of water, thereby eliminating the sometimes unpleasant aspect of rehydration. I understand the reasoning. Shelf-stable food is crucial, as perishable canned goods are somewhat self-defeating. So, fair enough. Moreover, this product generally received praise for closely mimicking the taste of a genuinely homemade casserole. It delivered a creamy, beef-flavored stroganoff dish. While clearly processed, considering its price point, merely $1 or $2, and the convenience it offered, few people griped about a slight powdery residue. Although numerous gardeners vouch for this method, substantial scientific investigation confirming the moon's impact on agriculture is lacking. Nevertheless, I don't dismiss anecdotal accounts. If generations before us practiced it, there might be something to it. Besides, doesn't performing tasks by moonlight add a certain scenic and dramatic quality? I picture a midnight gardening session being quite therapeutic. Stroganoff, admittedly, enjoyed greater prevalence in previous eras. Have you consumed much stroganoff yourself, or is it a dish you encounter frequently? Occasionally, a refrigerator might fail well before its expected lifespan, or perhaps the power goes out, leaving you facing a dilemma. Allow all your frozen goods, proteins, and milk to spoil, or draw inspiration from past generations and attempt a clever milk-saving trick? Should you ever find yourself facing a potential dairy catastrophe, consider putting your bottled milk into a basin of cold water. The subsequent step is remarkably simple. Just drape a damp cloth around the bottle's exterior. This technique helps inhibit harmful bacteria growth, alleviating concerns about milk turning sour. In my view, it's a universally advantageous solution. Dusting flour onto any work surface invariably assists in achieving non-stick rolling for dough. This represents another instance of creating a natural barrier. The thin layer formed by sprinkling flour between the rolling implement and the dough's surface accomplishes two significant tasks. It lessens the overall friction. It stops the dough from adhering. So what's the reason behind this? Dough contains a significant amount of water, making it prone to stickiness when rolled. Flour, conversely, excels at absorbing moisture. Much of this technique involves pairing an item with its counteracting element to mitigate undesirable effects. Dough's natural moisture causes stickiness. Applying flour which readily absorbs moisture, counteracts this. This flour layer also acts as a fine, powdery buffer between the work surface and the dough, greatly reducing the tendency to stick. Furthermore, this was a recipe that consistently pleased crowds, making it a valuable addition to anyone's culinary repertoire. Its popularity stemmed from predictable origins. Indeed, winning a man's affection via his stomach is a time-honored path towards matrimony. Land your man baked beans became a proven strategy. After all, a dish doesn't acquire such a nickname arbitrarily, does it? They are commonly presented as a topping for bratwurst or hot dogs, or as an accompaniment to main dishes, particularly barbecued items. Prepared with ground beef, onions, and bell peppers, these beans are certainly an ideal complement to any savory or zesty meal. Texas Pete sauce was a favored addition, though any Tabasco-style sauce suffices. Hardwood smoked bacon, however, is frequently suggested in cookbooks, often alongside Taco Bell seasoning. Regarding the beans themselves, while any canned variety is acceptable for an authentic mid-20th century taste, Bush's original baked beans are highly recommended. Regardless, preparing these promises a satisfying experience. Consider making them for a significant other during a romantic dinner. Perhaps good fortune will follow in more ways than one. Should wedding bells chime as a result of this dish, consider it a culinary triumph. Despite the rather comical sound of these names, and forgive me as I find it hard to say spork and spiff without a slight laugh, they represented genuine options for a midday meal. First, let's clarify what they were. Spork essentially refers to canned, processed pork, while spiff is the beef equivalent. I feel the person responsible for these names deserves recognition. If an award exists for best product names, they'd be a strong contender. Fortunately, the appeal wasn't limited to the quirky monikers. These products bore a strong resemblance to Spam. These products shared a very similar texture and taste profile with Spam, albeit without the associated tropical flavor notes. They were pantry essentials. Possessing a can of either and a couple of bread slices meant a quick sandwich was readily achievable. Forget those elaborate multi-step sandwich tutorials trending online that demand specialized ingredients. This was straightforward convenience. Reclaim simple sandwich preparation. Furthermore, Spiff and Spork earned points for their adaptability. They rivaled Spam because they could be incorporated into nearly any traditional American breakfast or meal. They offered an excellent method for injecting novelty into dishes that, while decent, had become somewhat repetitive due to their frequent appearance on dinner tables. Spiff often proved a preferable choice for families, sometimes containing a blend of beef and pork, and it could serve as a fantastic base for casseroles. Now, consider this practice, exceedingly common in Southeast Asian homes within America, yet perhaps less familiar to other U.S. residents. Washing your rice with water before cooking can significantly improve any rice-based dish. Truly, any recipe featuring rice benefits. The reason is that rinsing eliminates the surface starch coating the rice grains, yielding fluffier results with very little extra work. If you prefer your rice to be soft, light, and distinct rather than clumped together, this kitchen technique is worth adopting. Credit for bringing this to wider attention might go to Browns. Even culinary experts like Matt Slim endorse the practice. Similar to overly starchy pasta, most people don't appreciate overly sticky rice. Using milk for mildew control. Baking soda enjoys worldwide fame as an effective cleaning agent. Dealing with pet accidents on bedding? Cleaning up after someone overindulged? Simply tackling everyday grime? Or maybe combating odors from questionable leftovers? Regardless of the source of the unpleasantness, baking soda often comes to the rescue. What makes it such an all-purpose cleaner, though? Why does this single substance work so broadly when countless specialized products exist for specific tasks? The answer lies in baking soda possessing the ideal combination of cleaning properties. It exhibits mild abrasiveness, which, similar to salt as previously mentioned, aids in lifting unwanted residues without inflicting significant harm. This means baking soda capably handles general dirt, various stains, and accumulated grease. Its particles, much like salt, possess a certain coarseness that assists in scouring away grime. Beyond its texture, baking soda is also mildly alkaline, possessing a pH of about 9. Since many typical household stains and messes tend to be acidic in nature, baking soda's alkalinity helps neutralize them, often by breaking down the constituent oils, which aids in stain removal. It is equally effective at eliminating odors originating from spoiled food or other waste materials. This odor-neutralizing ability also stems from the fact that many unpleasant smells are caused by acidic compounds. As established, baking soda effectively counteracts acidity. Therefore, if you were seeking a genuine jack-of-all-trades cleaner, baking soda fits the bill. Speaking of classic desserts, you should know about the fantastic blueberry cobblers people commonly prepared in their crock pots. It's hardly news that cobbler is a frequent dessert in many American homes, a tradition stretching back further than our own lifetimes and likely to continue long after. Some traditions are simply ingrained across generations. Making blueberry cobbler in a crock pot allowed the flavors to deepen wonderfully. Because the dessert could essentially cook itself while melding flavors, its preparation became much more common. Once crock pots became widely available household items, sales of various berries and fruits increased, driven by the newfound ease of creating fruit-based desserts. Blueberries were certainly part of this trend. A major advantage was its suitability for any season. Unlike, say, hot chocolate, often reserved for winter, blueberry cobbler faced no such seasonal restrictions. Someone was always eager for a serving, and who could possibly overlook Campbell's soup? If ever there was a ubiquitous household item, this is it, representing something almost magical when viewed through the lens of past generations. Let's be honest, we're quite fortunate today. We can easily acquire almost anything pre-packaged, canned, or frozen from a store. However, these conveniences had their origins, and Campbell's Soup stands out as one of the most beloved and enduring brands that paved the way. They offered condensed soups requiring only the addition of water or milk, available in widely appealing varieties like cream of mushroom, chicken noodle, and tomato. The versatility was remarkable. It wasn't uncommon to use these soups as a foundation for casseroles or as a sauce component. And all this was available for a mere 10 to 12 cents. Quite the bargain, wouldn't you agree? It was more than just sustenance. It served as a crucial time saver for occupied mothers and a source of comfort for families navigating difficult periods. The distinctive red and white can evolved into an emblem of reliable food, residing in countless pantries. Campbell's advertisements even promoted ingenious recipes, demonstrating how to transform cream of mushroom soup into a creamy pasta sauce or a savory gravy for meatloaf. Here's another technique you might not only be aware of, but perhaps have even experimented with. Lightly toasting spices in a dry pan can dramatically enhance their flavor. Think of it like a performance enhancer for your ingredients, only completely safe and beneficial. A brief period of toasting can genuinely coax out the maximum flavor from whichever spices you're using. The outcome is a dish bursting with flavor, far more intense than you might have anticipated. Seems like a worthwhile step, doesn't it? Have you considered the reason behind this effect? Spices contain volatile oils, which are the primary source of their characteristic potent aromas and tastes. When you toast them, the applied heat encourages the release of these oils, effectively amplifying their impact. Cumin becomes earthier and more robust. Chilies develop notes of sweetness and smokiness beyond mere heat, and coriander's unique flavor profile truly blossoms. Vinegar's acidity is common knowledge. Even young students are likely aware of it. Regardless, I'm about to explain why its acidic property is precisely what makes this next hack valuable. You see, vinegar's acidic quality assists in loosening and dissolving the stubborn, burnt-on residue often found on cookware, that blackened crud that seems impossible to remove. While acetic acid itself is relatively weak and vinegar contains it in modest concentrations, its interaction with the minerals present in charred food and grease is significant. The acid facilitates the breakdown of these substances via acid-base reactions and dissolution. Though these terms might sound technical, they essentially mean that vinegar effectively helps the burnt food or grease release its grip on the pan's surface. Vinegar excels at cutting through such materials, aiding in the dissolution of greasy residues. So, perhaps that scorched pan isn't beyond saving after all. All right, let's keep the casserole theme going with Alpine chicken. Its rise in popularity mirrored that of the others mentioned, driven by similar factors. However, Alpine chicken possessed an additional appealing element: Swiss cheese. Given the enduring American fondness for cheese-laden dishes, it's hardly surprising this recipe became firmly established in family meal rotations. Typically, Alpine chicken involves layering chicken, usually breasts, though thighs are also used, with cream of mushroom soup and a topping of breadcrumbs or stuffing mix, then baking until the cheese achieves a gooey, melted state. Its popularity surged in the post-war years as home cooks increasingly sought simpler meal preparations, moving away from spending exhaustive hours in the kitchen. You're likely familiar with the feeling of being too tired to eat after cooking a complex meal. It can be draining, but it doesn't need to be that way. Innovations like crock-pots and accessible recipes such as Alpine chicken reintroduced enjoyment into cooking, allowing for rest and energy recovery. Deviled ham is likely just as you imagine it: finely minced ham, preserved in a can, and expertly mixed with an appropriate blend of mustard, spices, and seasonings. Its primary applications are in sandwiches or as a spread. Beyond these uses, its versatility is somewhat limited. It falls into the category of canned goods that, while not offering extensive variety, performs its specific function exceptionally well, earning it acceptance. Available for roughly 20 cents, perhaps slightly more, the quintessential choice for top-quality canned deviled ham was undoubtedly Underwood. This brand arguably held market dominance, significantly contributing to grocery store revenues and forming the basis for countless ham sandwiches. Consumers valued its convenience, frequently including it in school lunchboxes or spreading it on crackers for simple appetizers during home gatherings. The distinctive spicy note of deviled ham provided a unique appeal, establishing it as a preferred item for picnics and travel as well. Homemakers valued its long shelf life, which offered a ready solution for unexpected visitors or quick after-school bites. And the memorable devil emblem on the can is hard to forget. It secured its place as a familiar fixture in American homes, a modest yet gratifying treat delivering a ham-like flavor without the extensive preparation, reflecting a common preference for low-effort food options. Deviled ham, while certainly not haute cuisine, was unquestionably a trustworthy classic. Preserving herbs in an ice cube tray proves remarkably effective because it significantly aids in maintaining their freshness about as much as realistically possible. Herbs are notoriously delicate. If you frequently cook with fresh seasonings, you're already aware of this. Employing milk to manage mildew actually has scientific validation. This well-known gardening technique inhibits undesirable fungal proliferation due to several factors. Milk possesses protein that, upon exposure to sunlight, generates antimicrobial substances, acting as an impediment to mildew development. Furthermore, the lactic acid bacteria present in milk aid in controlling fungal spores, thereby enhancing plant resilience against diseases. First, it aids in preserving their freshness. How? Ice cube trays impede the process of oxidation, which significantly reduces spoilage. This is primarily due to the low temperatures slowing down enzymatic activity within the herb tissues and protecting the essential oils. Second, the tray's compartments allow for portioning, meaning you only remove the quantity of herbs required at any given time, further minimizing waste and deterioration. Third, these trays are stored in freezers, shielded from light and heat, providing the optimal conditions for the herbs to remain preserved until they are needed. Osso buco is renowned for its tenderness, the way the meat practically melts off the bone, contrasted by the bright saltiness of the gremolata and the overall freshness of the initial taste. an experience meant to be savored. If you enjoy exploring local Italian-American culinary offerings, you would truly miss out by never sampling this dish. Its widespread adoption in America was facilitated because, although traditionally prepared solely with veal, versions using more affordable beef or pork shanks became common. This adaptation made the dish attainable for average households managing budgets. Additionally, the inclusion of gremolata, a blend of lemon zest, garlic, and parsley, introduces a vibrant counterpoint, creating a well-rounded flavor profile. Osso buco stands as a superb representation of Italian-American cooking, embraced for its ability to provide a wonderfully satisfying and hearty meal for the whole family. Perhaps you overestimated your appetite and couldn't finish that entire large pizza you insisted on ordering, just for yourself. It's a common occurrence. Don't let that miscalculation condemn you to eating limp, soggy leftover pizza, though. Instead, reheat slices in a skillet to restore the crust's crispness, warmth, and much of its original freshness simultaneously. Just because food is leftover doesn't mean its initial quality must be entirely compromised. You can still derive considerable enjoyment if you invest a little time in reheating it using traditional methods. While microwaves offer undeniable, perhaps excessive, convenience, they simply cannot replicate the results achieved with direct heat from a stovetop and proper cookware. So if you'd rather avoid enduring a mushy, damp pizza crust, you now have a better alternative. This concludes my compilation of overlooked vegetable gardening techniques that deserve a revival. Let me know your favorite hack in the comments, and please remember to like this content and subscribe for more.